In the silence between one breath and the next, there exists a moment untouched by time. It is not empty, it is sacred. And if you're truly quiet now, you might begin to feel it. A faint stirring, like the wind shifting before a storm you somehow knew was coming. This isn't a storm of destruction, it's a storm of revelation, and it's been moving toward you across lifetimes. The universe has not overlooked you. It has not withheld. It has not forgotten. It has been preparing. Everything that seemed like delay, the missed chances, the broken plans, the doors that didn't open no matter how hard you knocked, they weren't rejections. They were recalibrations. Not detours, but divine detainments. You weren't late. You weren't wrong. You were being shaped. Just as a seed cannot rush its own blossoming, you could not yet see what was always meant for you. Not until now. Take a moment, wherever you are. Pause this video if you feel called. Then come back and tell me, where are you listening from right now? And what time is it where you are? Comment below. Let the algorithm become a sacred circle of shared presence. This, too, is a signal to the universe that you're here, ready to receive what was once hidden. Because readiness isn't a mood, it's a vibration, a frequency your soul has to reach before the veil parts. And for you, that veil is beginning to thin. You felt it, haven't you? In the strange synchronicities that seem too perfect to be random, in the recurring numbers on clocks, in the moments of déjà vu that make your skin prickle. These are not tricks. They're taps on the shoulder from something ancient and intelligent, something that has loved you long before you knew how to love yourself. You are not being tested. You are being attuned. Somewhere, deep in a forest that has no name on any map, a woman named Eleanor once wandered among the trees with bare feet and a heart full of questions. While others saw only roots and branches, she heard a whisper. Not a sound, exactly, but a presence, like a song woven into wind. Each day she returned, sitting in a clearing so still she could hear what no one else could. The breath of the world speaking in symbols. And as she listened, the trees began to show her signs. The shape of leaves, the call of birds, the curve of moonlight across moss. Each symbol carried a message, and the message was always the same. You are not lost. You are becoming. That's what the whisper has been trying to tell you. Through every sleepless night, through every longing you couldn't explain. The universe has always been speaking, but you could not hear it, not clearly, because the signal was vibrating at a frequency your old self hadn't yet tuned into. Now you are closer, so much closer. In a lighthouse perched at the edge of a forgotten coastline, a man named Walter kept watch. Every night, as fog swallowed the sea, he saw lights flicker across the waves. At first he dismissed them, illusions from tired eyes, tricks of reflection. But the lights returned, and each time they came, a ship appeared not long after, drawn toward the coast in urgent need. Over time, Walter began to trust the signals. He stopped questioning. He let the lights guide him, and in doing so, he saved lives. Not through heroics, but through humble alignment with something beyond logic. This is what you are being invited into, trust in the unseen. You don't need to force anything. You don't need to search harder. You need only still yourself long enough to feel what's already there. Your life is littered with clues. The universe is a master of subtlety, but it never stops speaking. Its voice lives in your intuition, in the goosebumps that arrive before the moment makes sense, in the inexplicable sense that you're being watched, not in fear, but in reverent attention. Because you are. The universe watches, not with judgment, but with awe. You are the miracle it's been waiting to unveil. All you must do now is listen, deeply, fully, and to do that, you must practice. So today, find a quiet place. Let the noise of your life melt into background static. Sit, breathe, and close your eyes. Not an expectation, but an invitation. Pay attention to the space between thoughts, that thin, golden thread where insight lives. Don't chase, don't force, simply be. For in the stillness, the signals become clear. You will feel them as sensations, a tingle, a warmth, a knowing that has no words. This is how the universe speaks, when you're finally ready to hear, and you are ready. Otherwise, this moment would not have found you. This video wouldn't have appeared. These words wouldn't be sinking into your bones the way they are right now. You are not imagining this resonance. You are remembering it. Because what has always been true is becoming visible. And just as the first light of dawn pierces the horizon, not with a roar, but with a gentle glow, your awareness is rising. It is soft, subtle, sacred, but it is unstoppable. What you once mistook for silence was symphony. What you believed was emptiness was preparation. And now, the ripeness of your soul draws the next revelation toward you. Not because you asked more loudly, but because you've become the frequency that matches its arrival. The sacred law of readiness is unfolding. There comes a moment, quiet and irreversible, when something within you shifts. Not as an explosion, not as fanfare, but as a soft rearranging of the furniture in your soul. You feel it before you understand it. A restlessness that isn't anxious, a stirring that isn't urgent. It feels like standing at the edge of a shore you've never seen, knowing you've been here before. This is not a moment of wanting. It is a moment of ripeness. Your life has not been waiting for your willpower, your declarations, or even your most heartfelt desires. It has been waiting for your frequency to align, for the subtle hum of your being to match the pattern of what you seek. You do not manifest because you want something badly enough. You manifest when the vibration of your soul resonates with the reality of that thing. Just as a flower doesn't bloom because it tries harder, but because its season has come, so too does revelation arrive only when your readiness sings the same song as the truth you are meant to receive. In a village where time moved as slowly and precisely as a loom weaving golden thread, an old woman named Margaret woke each morning before sunrise. She sat at her table stitching garments with calloused hands, her fingers fluent in a language passed down through generations. But lately, something inside her had shifted. Each stitch felt like a prayer she didn't quite understand. There was a gentle tug in her chest, not painful, but persistent, as though someone invisible were pulling her towards something unnamed. She didn't resist. She didn't force. She allowed. You too have felt that pull, that quiet insistence that something is coming, something is near. It's not a thought. It's not a wish. It is a biological and spiritual signal, the vibration of alignment, and it means you are ripening. But this ripening does not happen through effort. It happens through surrender to the sacred intelligence that lives in every cell of your body, in every inch of your consciousness. The same force that draws sap upward in trees in springtime draws revelation toward you when you are ready. Samuel was a blacksmith in another village, strong and sure in his work. Yet night after night, dreams began to visit him. Intricate symbols and strange blueprints etched themselves across his sleeping mind. At first he tried to explain them, even dismissed them as echoes of fatigue. But over time, he began to trust them. He didn't analyze. He simply let the images live inside him. Until one morning, as he stoked his forge, the meaning snapped into place. The symbols were instructions for tools he had never imagined, tools that would not only reshape his craft, but also uplift the lives of everyone around him. Readiness reveals itself in strange ways. Sometimes it's in a repeated dream. Sometimes it's the sudden urge to say no to what you've tolerated for years. Sometimes it's the quiet certainty that you're being called, even though no one has spoken your name aloud. These are not coincidences. These are signals of a deeper alignment taking place beneath your conscious mind. The point where your readiness begins to ripple through the fabric of your life. But here's what most miss. Readiness is not passive, but it is also not forceful. It is an internal ripening, not an external striving. And when it happens, the universe doesn't need to be petitioned. It responds automatically, just as light floods into a room when a window opens. You are that window, and something within you is swinging open. The signs that this is happening will not be dramatic. Not always. Sometimes they will arrive as a peace that doesn't make sense, a calm in the middle of uncertainty, a willingness to release what no longer serves, even without knowing what will replace it. These are the true markers of readiness, not urgency, but spaciousness, not craving, but clarity, not fear, but flow. So today, sit with that readiness. Don't rush it. Don't try to define it. Just let it be what it is. Take a journal, not as an obligation, but as a sacred vessel. Open a page and write what's been pulling at your heart. The thoughts that return uninvited, the dreams that won't leave you alone, the subtle nudges that feel louder than words. Write about the times you listened and the times you didn't. What unfolded in both? What might have been waiting on the other side of the whisper you ignored? Let the ink be your witness. Let your attention be the altar. Because when you begin to write your whispers down, they start speaking louder. When you honor them, they begin to guide. This is how the sacred dialogue begins, not with thunder, but with reverent noticing. The universe is always preparing you before it presents you, and that preparation often looks like restlessness, like discomfort, like not quite knowing. But beneath all of that is a truth more ancient than your fears. That what is meant for you is not waiting for you to become perfect, only to become ready. Margaret didn't force the message. Samuel didn't decode the dream too early. And you don't have to figure it all out today. You only need to honor the feeling that something inside you has shifted, that you're not who you were, that the old ways of being no longer fit like they used to. That is the sign. The pull you feel isn't something to fix. It's the proof that the next layer of your truth is approaching. Not because you demanded it, but because you have ripened into the version of yourself who can receive it. And just as Margaret's needle danced with a rhythm older than language, your life, too, is being stitched together by an unseen force. Your only task is to stay present and let the thread pull through. Soon, you will begin to see the shape of what's being sewn. But first, you must allow the thread to pass. Not all agreements are spoken aloud. Some are carved in silence, etched into the ether through the repetition of your thoughts, the patterns of your emotions, the rhythms of your reactions. These are the silent contracts you've made with the universe, not through ceremony, but through frequency. You may not remember making them, but your life remembers. Each moment, each relationship, each recurring challenge or unexpected gift, they're all reflections of the energetic promises you've been living by. Promises you whispered not with your voice, but with your beliefs. And now, as your awareness expands, you are beginning to see them for what they are, the architecture of your current reality. In a workshop filled with the earthy scent of sawdust and the gentle hush of morning light. An old craftsman named Harold carved furniture with devotion. He didn't rush. He didn't market himself loudly. Instead, he entered his studio each day with a calm expectancy. He carried no desperation, only quiet trust, a knowing that the right people would find his work, and they did. Clients arrived not by accident, but as if called by an invisible agreement. They would sit in his chairs and whisper, "It feels like this was made just for me." As if Harold had somehow anticipated their need before they ever voiced it. But he hadn't predicted it. He had aligned with it. Through his thoughts, his emotion, his steadiness, he had extended a contract to the universe. "Bring me those who are meant for what I create." And the universe replied, as it always does, in kind. You too are broadcasting these unspoken contracts. Every day, every moment. Not with effort, not with affirmations shouted into the void, but through the sustained field of your being. When you believe you must work hard to be loved, your relationships mirror that toil. When you quietly expect abandonment, people fulfill the prophecy. When you carry the weight of unworthiness, abundance dances at the edges but never steps in. These aren't punishments. They are responses. Fulfillments of silent agreements made long ago. Sometimes inherited, sometimes absorbed, sometimes repeated so often they became gospel in your nervous system. But here's the grace. Once you see them, you can rewrite them. In the quiet corners of an ancient library, Agnes sorted books without needing to understand the full scope of her purpose. She arranged them by intuition. She didn't know why she felt called to place one obscure volume where it might be found, or why another needed to be hidden for a time. But over and over, patrons walked in and found the exact text they needed. Sometimes a text that changed their life. Agnes never took credit. She didn't need to, because she wasn't orchestrating it. She was cooperating with a design greater than herself, a design that flowed through her because of the steady, trusting vibration she embodied. Your vibration is not some abstract mysticism. It is the climate of your inner world. Your expectations, your beliefs, your recurring stories. These send out signals. And like tuning forks in a vast field, reality begins to vibrate in response. So if you want to change your world, begin not with action, but with awareness. Ask yourself gently, what have I been agreeing to without knowing it? Look at 3 areas of your life right now: your relationships, your work, your inner peace. Ask not what is wrong, but what is mirrored. What are these areas reflecting back to you about your deeper beliefs? Where have you been acting out old agreements, inherited from family, culture, or wounds you never chose but still carry? Write them down, not with judgment, but with curiosity. Not to shame yourself, but to finally see the blueprint you've been building from. Maybe you've been agreeing to always give more than you receive. Maybe you've been agreeing that wealth is unsafe. Maybe you've been agreeing to remain invisible so others can shine. These agreements are not moral failures. They are energetic defaults. And now that you are becoming more conscious, you have the sacred power to renegotiate. Because the universe does not bind you to anything forever. It only echoes what you continue to believe. Once you shift the tone of the belief, the song changes. The sacred practice here is not to force a new agreement, but to first witness the old ones, to bring them out of hiding and into the light of awareness. And then, like Harold with his chairs or Agnes with her books, you begin to live from a new contract, one of wholeness, worthiness, receptivity. You don't need to shout this new contract. You don't even need to write it in gold. You only need to feel it, embody it, and let your life become its signature. That might look like choosing rest instead of proving your worth. It might look like asking for what you need without apology. It might look like trusting that your presence alone is already enough. And as you begin to honor these small shifts, something miraculous begins to unfold. Reality bends to meet the new you. Not immediately, not all at once, but with growing certainty. You will find yourself in situations that reflect your shift, conversations that go deeper, doors that open gently, synchronicities that hum with familiarity. And one day you'll look back and see the agreements have changed. Not because you forced the world to change, but because you invited yourself to become someone new. This is the dance of co-creation, not command and control, but resonance and refinement. So take today to pause and reflect. What agreements am I living by? And which ones am I now ready to release? Then gently close your eyes and whisper, I allow myself to remember what I have always deserved. Because you are not here to repeat what was passed down. You are here to rewire the frequency and reclaim the script. And as that inner rewriting begins, the gatekeeper within you stirs, awaiting the next evolution of your becoming. In the earliest light of morning, beneath a canopy of mist, Clara stood before an ancient iron gate. It was not a gate that belonged to any village or map. It belonged to something deeper, a space between what was and what could be. The metal shimmered with strange markings, and its shape seemed to change each time she looked away. She had come here before, many times, always trying to open it, always pressing her weight against it, whispering prayers into its seams, trying combinations of thought, will, and longing. But the gate never moved, until one twilight, as exhaustion settled into her bones and her breath slowed to the rhythm of surrender, an inscription emerged in the metal. Words she had never noticed before. The key lies not in the lock, but in the heart that seeks entry. You too stand before such a gate, one that guards a deeper layer of your becoming, a threshold not to knowledge, but to wisdom, not to information, but to initiation. And like Clara, you have likely tried to push through it using the self you know best, the part of you that plans, that strives, that calculates. But this gate does not respond to effort. It opens only when the inner gatekeeper recognizes your resonance. This inner gatekeeper is not a judge. It is not cruel. It is a sacred intelligence within you that guards access to deeper realms of truth, not to punish, but to protect. Because higher wisdom is not merely a gift, it is a responsibility. The truths waiting beyond this gate are not ideas to entertain. They are living frequencies that require you to become someone who can hold them. And the gatekeeper knows when you are ready, not by your words, but by your vibration. This is why some doors in your life have remained firmly closed, no matter how fervently you knocked. And why others opened almost magically when you least expected it. The difference was not in what you did. It was in who you had become. Readiness is not something you can pretend. It's not performance. It's a signature written in the subtle field of your being. When your energy aligns with the truth of what you're asking for, the gatekeeper steps aside. Not because you convinced it, but because you've become the one who belongs beyond the gate. In the mountains, there lived a merchant named George who spent years seeking a fabled passage to an ancient place of wisdom. He studied old texts, hired guides, and mapped every rumor. He chased signs, interpreted omens, followed pathways that circled back on themselves. But the passage remained elusive. Then one stormy night, worn and defeated, he took shelter in a small cave. He made no plans. He gave no effort. He simply sat, still, soaked, surrendered. And as lightning cracked the sky, he watched the back wall of the cave dissolve, not crumble, not break, simply vanish, revealing the very path he had searched for all along. The moment he stopped becoming more, the door opened to who he already was. You are not required to prove yourself to the gatekeeper within. You are only asked to align with the truth that waits on the other side. That means releasing the version of you that believes it must force the way open. That means letting go of the stories that say you are not enough yet. Because as long as you carry the self that forged the wound, the gate cannot recognize the vibration of your healing. The self that belongs on the other side, the version of you that is already worthy, already luminous, already wise, must be allowed to emerge. So pause now, not to strive, but to listen, to breathe. Find a quiet place and close your eyes. Visualize a path bathed in moonlight, leading you to the gate. See the intricate patterns in the ironwork. Feel its energy, not as opposition, but as ancient presence. Now notice the figure standing before it, your gatekeeper. This being is neither friend nor foe. It is not outside you, but within. It is your higher self in its most sacred role, protector of your unfolding. Ask gently, what must shift within me for the gate to open? Do not expect a voice. Do not wait for words. Feel instead. A sensation, a knowing, a clarity that might rise like heat in the chest or stillness in the mind. Let it come as it wishes. Let the answer emerge not from your thoughts, but from your alignment. Then return slowly, not with a new to-do list, but with a new way of being. You don't need to perform worthiness. You only need to shed what no longer vibrates at the frequency of who you are becoming. The gate will open in time, not because you pushed it, but because you dissolved what blocked its recognition of you. This is the alchemy of becoming, the mystery of thresholds, the sacred art of resonance. And when the gate swings open, and it will, you'll understand that it was never locked to begin with. It was simply attuned to a version of you still waiting to emerge. In this very moment, that emergence is underway. Something in you is softening, widening, rising. You are nearing the garden beyond the gate, a realm of awareness where signs are no longer scattered coincidences, but coherent language. That is where we go next, into the space where the universe begins to speak not in riddles, but in radiant, sacred pattern. Each morning, Beatrice stood before her schoolhouse chalkboard in a quiet village nestled between hills. She would write the day's lessons in careful script, yet something strange kept happening. Her eyes were always drawn to the clock at exactly 11:11. At first, she dismissed it, coincidence. But then came the dreams, vivid, star-soaked skies, flight without wings, a sense of soaring through something invisible yet vast. No teacher had ever taught her how to interpret these messages, but her soul began to whisper, "Pay attention. This is not random. You have seen such signs too. Repeating numbers, unlikely synchronicities, the same word or image appearing across unrelated situations, a song playing exactly when a question stirs in your heart. These are not just curiosities. They are spiritual breadcrumbs, symbols carefully placed by a universe that speaks through pattern, not persuasion. When your soul begins to awaken, the world doesn't get louder. It gets more precise. The signs don't arrive to impress you. They arrive to affirm you, to mirror the vibration you're beginning to emit. As your inner state shifts, your reality responds with an elegance that logic alone cannot explain. This is how the sacred speaks, not with thunder, but with consistency. In the heart of a market town, a man named Edward kept a stall selling fabrics. For years, it was uneventful, until one season, he began noticing strange recurrences. The same rare phrase mentioned in multiple conversations. A red bird tapping at his window on mornings when big decisions loomed. At first, he brushed it off. But then the bird appeared just before a customer offered him a life-changing business opportunity. Then again, before he met someone who became family. And again, each time, the same bird, the same rhythm. He stopped calling it coincidence. He started calling it guidance. What Edward learned is what you are now beginning to see, that the universe is not arbitrary. It is intricate, symphonic. It crafts messages from what you know, what you notice, what touches you most. The signs that appear in your life were not sent generically. They are written in your personal language, coded for your soul. But to read this language, you must first believe it exists. And to believe it exists, you must train yourself to notice, without rushing to explain, to rationalize, or to dismiss. Your awakening has already begun, and one of its first expressions is your attunement to synchronicity. The number that keeps showing up, the stranger who says exactly what you needed to hear, the dream that echoes real life in unsettling precision. These are not errors in the matrix. They are the matrix revealing itself to you. This is the sacred practice of recognition. Get yourself a journal dedicated solely to signs, a book of sacred dialogue between you and the unseen. Each night, record anything that shimmered that day. Repeating numbers, meaningful dreams, odd coincidences, words that struck like lightning. Don't try to decode them right away. Don't rush to assign meaning, just record. Over time, patterns will emerge. Your soul will start to connect the threads, and eventually, a language will form, one that has been speaking to you all along. Some signs arrive as confirmation, others as caution. Some nudge you forward, others urge you to wait. But all are offered in love. You do not need to be a mystic to receive them. You only need to be willing to look at the world as more than mechanism, to see it as messenger. And once you start recognizing the signs, your relationship with the universe shifts from passive wishing to active listening. You are no longer pleading for help. You are engaged in dialogue. And that is when manifestation accelerates. Not because your technique improved, but because your trust did. Just like Beatrice learned to notice the clock, like Edward learned to see the bird. You begin to trust the feeling of, this means something, even before you can explain what. Because when your vibration changes, reality sends evidence. It doesn't always make sense to the mind, but the heart knows, and the soul never forgets. This doesn't mean that every coincidence is sacred. Discernment will come. But right now, your task is not to sort signs into real and false. Your task is simply to notice, to open your spiritual ears and begin hearing the soft drumbeat of meaning that has been pulsing beneath your life all along. The signs are not outside of you. They arise from within, the outward ripple of your inward transformation. And when you begin to live in conversation with those ripples, your entire life becomes more textured, more alive, more lit from the inside. You'll begin to see your world as a book written for you, not as fate, but as feedback. You'll stop feeling abandoned and start feeling guided. You'll move through your days with eyes wide open, wondering not if the universe will speak, but how it will speak next. This is what it means to awaken, to realize that nothing is random, that your life is not happening to you, it is speaking with you. And the more you recognize that sacred communication, the more fluent you become. Your next chapter is ready to arrive. But first, your awareness must reach the frequency of knowing, not hoping. Because the signs are not just pointing toward what is coming. They are proof that what you seek is already drawing near. In the earliest blush of dawn, Thomas walked the edges of his wheat field, as he had done every morning for years. His hands brushed gently over the ripening stalks, familiar with every groove in the soil beneath his boots. And yet, this morning felt different. He couldn't explain it, but he didn't need to. Something in the air had shifted, not outside, but within. It wasn't joy or hope or anticipation. It was a stillness, deep and clear, that settled into his bones like certainty. Without thinking, he turned toward a new patch of earth and whispered, "It's time." This is alignment. Not the moment when things begin to happen, but the moment when you know they already are. True alignment doesn't shout. It doesn't surge with adrenaline or burst forth in epiphanies. It arrives as a quiet knowing that fills the body, a peace so complete it needs no proof. It is the absence of resistance, the disappearance of urgency. It is the feeling of stepping into a river and realizing you are not pushing against the current anymore. You are the current. When you reach alignment with a desire, you don't chase it anymore. You become the vessel through which it naturally arrives. This is the difference between force and flow. Thomas didn't question why that morning was the one. He didn't strategize or analyze. His body simply responded to a frequency that finally matched what he had carried inside him all along. The seed of his next season had ripened in silence, and now it was ready to be planted. There was no resistance, no need for reassurance, only action rooted in peace. You have felt this kind of clarity before, though perhaps you didn't name it as such. The moment you made a decision and never looked back. The instant you said yes or no, not from fear, but from grounded certainty. The times when you acted not to make something happen, but because something had already happened inside you. Alignment is not effort, it's embodiment. It means your energy has harmonized with your intentions so fully that the outcome is no longer separate from who you are. You are no longer reaching. You are inhabiting the reality of your desire, even before it becomes physical. In another town, Mabel stood in her bakery kneading dough. She had made bread for years, always following the same recipes, honoring tradition. But one morning, something moved through her hands. A rhythm, a spontaneity, a creativity she hadn't known before. She didn't measure. She didn't follow rules. She simply let herself be guided. What emerged from her oven that day was unlike anything she had baked before, and people felt it. They came from villages miles away, not for the ingredients, but for the essence infused into every loaf. What had changed? Not her skills, not her kitchen, only her state of being. She had surrendered, not to chaos, but to a deeper harmony. She became a channel, not a controller. And through that surrender, her art transcended effort. This is the secret behind true manifestation. It doesn't come from trying harder. It comes from becoming the kind of vessel that desire can move through. When you are aligned, you don't need to attract anything. Your life begins to mirror the harmony within you. But alignment doesn't mean passivity. It means intentional resonance. It means choosing again and again to return to the energy of wholeness rather than fear. To act not from lack, but from overflow. And you can practice this in the smallest of ways. Today, choose one decision, any small one. What to eat, which path to walk, who to speak to. Before acting, pause. Close your eyes. Breathe. And then ask yourself, which option feels like ease? Which one feels like trying too hard? Don't pick based on logic alone. Pick based on alignment. The path that feels like stepping into a stream, not swimming upstream. This practice, done consistently, refines your sensitivity to inner guidance. It teaches you to distinguish between mental noise and soul clarity. It reconnects you to your deeper knowing, the one that never left, only got buried beneath the noise of doubt. As you strengthen this awareness, your life begins to unfold more naturally. You'll find yourself making the right move without overthinking, saying the right thing without rehearsal, arriving at the right place without planning. This isn't magic. It's the natural outcome of being in tune, just like Thomas felt the pull of new soil, like Mabel let her hands be guided. You too will begin to recognize when it's time, not because a clock told you, not because someone else confirmed it, but because your inner landscape whispered, now. This is the power of alignment. It makes manifestation feel inevitable, because it is inevitable. Once your vibration becomes the same as your desire, the space between them collapses. Time bends, circumstance rearranges. What once seemed distant begins to arrive, not with drama, but with grace. So stop asking, when will it come? Start asking, am I aligned with it now? Because if the answer is yes, if you feel that calm clarity rising, then your work is not to push harder. It is to listen more deeply, to trust the movement that arises from peace, to let yourself be carried by a rhythm older than thought, to act from the field of already having, not still seeking. You are not waiting anymore. You are aligning. And the more you choose alignment, the more the world arranges itself in reflection. Next comes the invitation to let go even further, to dissolve the last threads of doubt and step into faith with open arms. Because once you taste alignment, the only thing left to release is your fear that it might not last. In a quiet cottage tucked along the edge of a misty valley, Dorothy rose each morning to tend her rose garden. To most eyes, the plants looked bare, only stems and thorns, leaves curled from late frost. But Dorothy didn't see lack. She saw promise. Each morning, she greeted her roses not as they were, but as they would be. She spoke to them softly, watered them faithfully, whispered encouragement into their still sleeping buds. Day after day, with no visible sign of change, she continued, and still, she smiled. Not from delusion, but from knowing. This is the space most people never reach. The sacred ground between planting and blooming. The invisible chamber of faith. The pause where doubt tries to grow, but where true creation is already moving beneath the surface. You are in that space now. You've aligned. You've felt the shift. You've honored the signs and the whispers. And yet, there may still be no evidence, no flowers, no proof. This is when most people falter. They dig up the seed too early. They let fear override trust. They confuse the unseen with the non-existent. But just because you cannot see it yet, doesn't mean it isn't already unfolding. The universe operates through laws deeper than logic. And one of them is this: what is held with unwavering faith must eventually find form. The only thing that can delay it is doubt, because doubt doesn't stop manifestation. It only slows your recognition of it. Dorothy understood this in her bones. She knew that just beneath the earth's quiet skin, her roses were stirring. She didn't need to see petals to believe. Her faith became nourishment, her belief sunlight, her calm expectancy, the very soil in which miracles take root. In distant waters, a sailor named Leonard guided his ship through blackened nights when clouds swallowed every star. Other captains would have waited for visibility. But Leonard? He navigated by a different compass, one within. He trusted the pull of celestial bodies even when he could not see them. Others questioned his choices, but voyage after voyage he reached safe harbor. Not because he was lucky, but because he knew the stars were still there, even when hidden. This is what you're being asked to do now. To walk by inner sight, to hold fast to the vibration of your desire, even when the world offers no confirmation. Especially then, because doubt creeps in through silence. It feeds on the absence of visible progress. It tells you that if it hasn't arrived yet, it won't. But doubt is not a truth teller. It's a distortion, a misinterpretation of divine timing. And when you choose to see through it, something extraordinary happens. Your inner world becomes stronger than your outer conditions. So how do you nourish that strength? You write a letter, not to someone else, but to yourself, from your future self, the version of you who has already received everything you now desire. Sit quietly. Close your eyes. Let that version of you come alive, not as fantasy, but as memory remembered ahead of time. Then write. Begin with the phrase, "Dear me, I'm writing to remind you what's already yours." Describe the journey. Describe the turning points. Speak of the challenges you moved through, the doubts you overcame, the moments you nearly gave up, and how grace found you anyway. Let it flow from your heart, not your mind. Let the future remind the present, and then read that letter every day, not to convince yourself, but to remember, because you are not hoping anymore. You are anchoring, just as Leonard trusted his stars, just as Dorothy saw her roses before they bloomed. You are being asked to hold the frequency of your desired reality, not to force it into being, but to allow it to emerge from your unwavering field of faith. Faith is not blind. It is vision ahead of proof. And when you live from that vision, the universe responds. Because the universe is listening not to your words, but to your energy. If your energy says it's already done, the universe aligns accordingly. This is the bridge between the unseen and the seen. Doubt is not a sin. It's simply a pause in alignment. And when it arises, because it will, meet it with compassion. Thank it for showing you where trust is still growing. Then return to your inner lighthouse. Return to your letter. Return to your knowing. Because what you seek is already moving towards you. And just like Dorothy's roses, it will bloom. Not because you begged it to, but because you believed long enough to let it. And when it does arrive, as it will, you'll realize that your real reward wasn't just the manifestation. It was the version of you who learned to know before seeing. That version of you is already here. Let them rise. Each morning, Ruth sat by the window of her coastal cottage, gazing out at the endless rhythm of the sea. The waves spoke in a language she had long since learned to understand, not with words, but with timing. Her son had gone to war, and no letter had arrived in months. Still, every dawn, she placed a second teacup across from her own, not as a symbol of hope, but as an act of readiness, a sacred welcome. She didn't ask, "When will he come?" She simply prepared as if he would. This is the sacred pause before receiving. It is the space after intention has been set, after alignment has been felt, after faith has been anchored, and yet before the physical manifestation arrives. It is a space most people resist, misinterpret, or flee. But this pause is not empty. It is everything. In this pause, the universe is not delaying. It is orchestrating. Threads are being woven. Circumstances are shifting. People are being aligned. Outcomes are moving into place. Just as a seed does not sprout the moment it touches soil, your desires do not bloom the moment they are birthed in your mind. There is a gestation, not because the universe is slow, but because it is precise. This is the space where trust must mature into presence. James, a master watchmaker, spent years building a timepiece unlike any other. Customers waited, impatient, offering more and more to speed up the process. But James refused. Each gear, each spring, each angle had to find its place on its own terms. He said, "Time itself must approve the movement before I can." And one morning, without warning, the final piece clicked. The clock came alive, not as a product, but as a masterpiece. Your desires deserve the same care. To rush them is to weaken them. To pressure their arrival is to interrupt their formation. The sacred pause is not a waiting room. It is a womb, a protected space in which something magnificent is being shaped. And your role during this time? Not to doubt, not to demand, but to sustain the vibration that called it in, to remain steady in the frequency that first invited the manifestation. This is not passive. It is active trust. It is devotional stillness. It is the choice to believe that just because you cannot yet see the form, the formation is well underway. Imagine yourself like Ruth, pouring tea each morning for a guest whose arrival is not confirmed, yet whose presence is felt. You prepare the place. You hold space. You welcome what's on its way by being ready, not by being frantic. This is alignment with divine timing. And divine timing never fails. It doesn't make mistakes. It doesn't forget. It simply operates on a level of orchestration that far exceeds human understanding. Where you see silence, it sees synchronization. Where you feel pause, it feels perfection. But this requires surrender, not to inaction, but to intelligence beyond your own. Say these words aloud each day. I trust the divine timing of my life. Every delay serves my highest good. Let them not be a mantra of wishful thinking, but a declaration of cooperation. Because your doubt doesn't make things come faster. Your anxiety doesn't make doors open. Only your continued resonance, your commitment to the vibration of readiness, creates a bridge strong enough for the desire to cross. Think of Ruth's second teacup. Think of James's clock, waiting for its final click. Think of the sprouting seed, silent beneath the surface. They are not idle, they are becoming, and so are you. If impatience arises, as it inevitably will, use it as a reminder to return to trust. Speak directly to your own heart. I am not being forgotten. I am being aligned. I am not late. I am right on time. The universe is not unsure, it is precise. These are not empty affirmations. They are attunements, tools to bring you back into coherence with the unfolding. Remember, this pause is not punishment. It is preparation. It is protection. Sometimes what you're waiting for isn't ready for you, and sometimes you're not quite ready for it. But the pause gives you space to become the one who can receive without resistance, hold without fear, and embody without collapse. So keep showing up. Water the soil, set the table, tend the inner field. And know this, every pause is pregnant with presence. Soon enough, the door will open. The letter will arrive. The click will sound. The moment you've imagined will step into form. Not because you chased it, but because you stayed present through the stillness. And when it does come, you'll recognize that the pause was not the absence of movement. It was the choreography of miracles behind the veil. In the dim glow of his candlelit workshop, Franklin sat hunched over scattered blueprints and half-finished designs. His hands, calloused and precise, had drawn countless inventions. But tonight, something eluded him. A mechanism refused to cooperate, no matter how he calculated. Frustration tightened in his chest, until finally he pushed the papers away and surrendered into sleep. That night, he dreamed of a spider weaving its web by moonlight. Each thread spun with purpose, each intersection intentional. When Franklin awoke, the solution came in a rush. The spider had revealed the answer, not in numbers, but in pattern. This is how the universe speaks to those ready to listen, not in commands, but in symbols. You live within a language deeper than words, a sacred syntax written across your dreams, your days, your sudden knowings. The universe does not shout, it resonates. And when you are ready, it speaks fluently through the signs only your soul knows how to interpret. Helen, a quiet artist in a remote town, prepared for her first exhibition with doubt whispering at every stroke. Then, one morning, she noticed a butterfly at her window. Then 3, then 7. Her garden bloomed wildly, out of season. A child handed her a drawing of stars, the exact pattern she had dreamt of painting. She stopped questioning. She understood. These were confirmations. Her soul had reached readiness, and reality replied. So often you ask, "Am I ready yet?" But readiness doesn't announce itself. It is revealed through synchronicity, the alignment of outer symbols with inner truth. This is the language of the universe. A book falling open to the exact passage you needed, a stranger's sentence echoing your secret question, a song playing just as a decision stirs in your chest. These are not coincidences, they are correspondences, cosmic replies to your energetic broadcast. But to receive them, you must first believe they're meant for you. Too often people brush off these moments. It's just chance, they say. But what they call coincidence, the awakened call communication, and it requires attention. Start simply. When something catches your eye or stirs your heart, pause. Ask, what is this pointing me toward? What emotion rises with it? What does it remind me of? Let the meaning arise. Don't force it. Just witness. Over time, you will begin to see the shape of your personal lexicon, the unique vocabulary the universe uses to speak directly to your soul. Because this language is not universal, it is intimate. It uses the images, feelings, and metaphors most familiar to you. That's why a butterfly means something different to Helen than it does to Franklin. That's why your dreams are not random. They're symbolic letters written in the ink of your essence. So how do you strengthen your fluency? You keep a celestial signals journal. Each time a meaningful sign appears, write it down. Record your immediate feelings before your mind rushes to logic. Note how it connects to what you've been thinking, praying, fearing, or hoping. Over time, you'll discover patterns, certain numbers, animals, words, or dreams that recur around transitions or revelations. These are your soul's symbols, and they form the map that only you can read. But remember, the purpose of a sign is not to replace your intuition. It is to confirm it. The universe does not guide you externally first. It echoes what you already know inside. The symbol is the chorus, but your soul is the lead voice. Just as Franklin dreamed of a spider, just as Helen painted her stars, just as you too have felt the tingle of significance when something small felt big. You are not imagining it, you are awakening to it. And the more you engage with these signs, with reverence, not superstition, the more they come alive. Because attention feeds the sacred. When you honor these glimpses of guidance, you deepen the dialogue, and suddenly, life is no longer random, it is responsive. You begin to feel seen by the sky, held by time, in relationship with reality itself, not as a passive participant, but as a conscious co-creator. So today, when something strange or beautiful catches your awareness, a number, a phrase, a feeling, treat it like a visitor from the unseen. Ask, what are you trying to tell me? Then listen, not with your ears, but with your whole being. Because the universe is not trying to confuse you, it is trying to confirm you. And each sign is not a test to decode. It is a whisper saying, "You're on the right path. Keep going." At the edge of a mountain village, beneath stars that had guided generations, Esther lit a single candle beside a mother in labor. She had done this countless times, through storm and calm, birth and death. Yet no two moments were ever the same. She didn't rely on procedures alone. Instead, she would pause, eyes closed, breathing steady, tuning into a presence beyond herself, something unseen but unmistakable. When complications arose, it was not her knowledge that guided her hands, but a stillness, a light, a knowing that lived deeper than thought. This was faith, not belief in something distant, not hoping in something abstract, but direct communion with the unseen. And you too are being called to this place, the portal of faith, where doubt dissolves and your next level of reality begins to take form. Not from will, but from trust. Faith is not passive. It is not a hoping for. It is a knowing before. It is the vibration of already being, a frequency that opens doors the mind cannot. When you stand at the threshold of the invisible, your logic will tremble. Your instincts will seek evidence. Your fear may plead for reassurance. But your soul, it will know. Milton knew. He found himself deep in enemy territory on a moonless night, separated from his unit. His map was gone, his radio dead. Every sound could have meant death. But instead of panicking, he stood still and surrendered. And in that surrender, he felt it, a magnetic pull, a sense of direction with no compass. Step by step, guided by what he could not name, he walked through a dozen traps unseen, emerging safe. It was not luck. It was not chance. It was faith, the guidance system of the soul activated through full surrender. This is the portal you are now approaching. It does not open with effort. It opens with entry into absolute trust, a trust that rises not from theory, but from resonance. When you fully step into faith, you stop needing signs. You stop checking the clock. You stop scanning for reassurance. You become the signal. You become the evidence. And everything that once felt far begins moving toward you. Not because you demanded it, but because you've already embodied it. Faith is the frequency of completion. It's the place where your being vibrates as if the thing you desire is already here. Because on a spiritual level, it is. So how do you enter this portal? Find a still place, close your eyes, and visualize before you a doorway of radiant light. It doesn't glow because of magic. It glows because it's yours. This is your next level, your readiness, your divine yes. Stand before it. Notice what you feel. Resistance, excitement, fear, all are welcome. Faith doesn't deny emotion, it transcends it. Now ask yourself gently, what am I afraid will happen if I truly trust this path? What part of me still holds on to needing proof? Let those answers come, not to shame, but to release. Then, when you feel ready, step forward, through the light, through the portal, and let the old frequency dissolve behind you. On the other side, nothing has changed, and everything has. Because now, you are operating from a different law, the law of inner knowing, the law that says, what is mine cannot miss me. What is aligned cannot be lost. What is true will arrive without force. You become like Esther, holding space not just for others, but for your own unfolding. Letting the intelligence of spirit guide your hands, your heart, your days. You begin to act from this place, choose from this place, speak from this place. And your life begins to organize around this invisible coherence. Faith doesn't make you passive, it makes you potent. Because it frees your energy from desperation and directs it toward embodiment. From this portal, your manifestations no longer trickle, they flow. Your timing no longer feels delayed, it feels designed. You realize that you were never waiting for the world to show up. You were waiting to enter the place where it already has. So let this be your declaration. I no longer require evidence. I am the evidence. I no longer seek permission. I am aligned. I no longer wonder when. I walk as if it is done, because it is. And now, with this knowing, we step forward into the sacred dance of creation itself, where invisible forces weave your alignment into tangible form. In a sunlit studio perched at the edge of a quiet town, Clifton sat at his drafting table with a blank page and an open heart. He had built homes, temples, bridges. People often asked him for blueprints, for outlines, for measurable results. But Clifton had a secret. He never started with walls or windows. He began with feeling. Each morning, he would close his eyes, breathe deeply, and allow the building to speak to him. Not with words, but with weight, with presence, with spirit. Only when he felt the structure in his body would his pencil move. He was not drawing alone. He was co-creating with something unseen. This is the invitation now opening before you, to trust what assembles beyond your sight. To believe not just in what you can measure, but in the invisible orchestration already in motion on your behalf. The universe is a master builder. Its plans are vast, its tools refined, and its timing flawless. You may not see the materials being gathered. You may not yet glimpse the scaffolding of your dream. But make no mistake, the blueprint has been received. The construction has begun. Your alignment sent the signal. Your faith activated the sequence. Now, unseen forces are stitching together elements far beyond your comprehension. And your job is not to manage, but to allow. Consider this. When you plant a seed, you do not return each hour to dig it up and check on its progress. You water. You trust. You tend the soil. You let the sun do what the sun does. So it is with your desires. They are seeds of frequency, already buried in the field of infinite potential. They do not need your fear. They need your steadiness. Marjorie, a weaver in a shop filled with threads of every hue, understood this in her own way. She worked on a tapestry unlike anything she'd ever made. The pattern revealed itself slowly, a flash of color in a dream, a symbol recalled from childhood, a texture that called to her from a passing cloud. She didn't question it. She let her hands follow the thread. At times, she couldn't see what she was making, but she trusted the rhythm. She trusted the design to reveal itself, and when it did, the image was more perfect than anything she could have imagined. So often, your mind will demand clarity, but clarity is not required at the start. Connection is. And the more you stay connected to your inner state, to your higher knowing, the more you become a willing participant in creation. What does this mean in daily life? It means doing your part, taking aligned action, without grasping at control. It means opening your hands while keeping your feet on the path. It means releasing the obsession with how and choosing instead to anchor into why. The why is your compass. The how belongs to the universe. The moment you begin to obsess over the mechanism, the when, the who, the strategy, you leave the field of trust and enter the frequency of interference. This doesn't mean you don't act. It means you act in cooperation with the unseen. You do not need to see the whole picture to begin. Write the first line. Take the first step. Open the door, even if you don't know where it leads. Trust that what you are building is being built with you. This is sacred architecture. This is divine collaboration. And to deepen this collaboration, take time to write a gratitude letter from the future. Choose one desire, one that calls to you with a steady, deep pull. Imagine it has already manifested. Now, write a letter as if you are living it. Thank the universe for its delivery. Be specific. Be sincere. Speak of how it feels, how it changed you, what you now see that you couldn't before. Let the words pour from the part of you who already knows it's done. Then read this letter often, not to convince, but to align. Not to beg, but to belong. To the timeline where it is already true. Gratitude is the energetic glue of manifestation. It binds your vibration to the completed form. It says to the universe, I trust you so completely, I celebrate before I see. And the universe responds with acceleration. Because when you stop asking when and start saying thank you collapse the space between longing and having. You become like Clifton, guided by the shape of what is yet unseen. Like Marjorie, trusting the thread that chooses itself. You become less of a planner and more of a portal, through which the invisible becomes real. So breathe and remember, you do not need to see the full design. You only need to stay aligned with its vibration. In the heart of winter, when the earth lay silent beneath a quilt of frost, Everett stepped into his fields, carrying a small canvas bag of seeds. The ground looked barren, hard, unmoving, unwelcoming. But Everett smiled. He knew what others didn't, that the soil was only resting, not dead. That just below its frozen surface, an invisible preparation was taking place. He pressed the seeds into the earth, one by one, not with hope, but with certainty. Not because he needed to believe they would grow, but because he knew they already contained the future. This is how manifestation begins, in the unseen. You have planted intentions in the soil of your consciousness. You have aligned your vibration. You have tended your inner field. But now comes the part that many cannot tolerate, the not knowing. The phase where nothing above the surface moves, yet everything below is transforming. Growth doesn't announce itself right away. It begins in silence, just as the seed cannot sprout until its outer shell breaks. Your manifestations require a moment of darkness, a sacred cocoon, where the old form dissolves and the new is not yet visible. This is the invisible phase of becoming, and it demands your deepest trust. Across town, in a modest classroom, Vera taught children often overlooked. Their test scores were low. Their attention wandered. Yet Vera saw more. Each day she spoke to them not as they were, but as who they could be. Her words were seeds. Her gaze was sunlight. Her patience, the rain. And though weeks passed with little change, Vera remained steady. Until one day, the first bloom appeared. A child who whispered, I think I'm smart now. And from there, the field awakened. You are Vera. You are Everett. You are the one who must believe through the silence, because this stage, the quiet unfolding, is not evidence that your desire has disappeared. It is evidence that it is rooting, that it's gathering strength beneath the surface, absorbing the nutrients of your faith, preparing for a stronger emergence than you could have planned. But most people dig up the seed before it breaks through. They doubt. They declare failure. They stop tending the vision. And in doing so, they interrupt the very process designed to serve them. The universe is not slow, it is precise. And manifestation is not a magic trick. It is a natural law. It works like biology, like seasons, like tides. You cannot yell a flower into bloom. But you can miss its blossoming if you stop watering just before it opens. So how do you hold faith during this unseen time? With symbolic embodiment, choose a physical seed, a literal one, a sunflower, a bean, a basil sprout. Hold it in your hand and speak your desire aloud into it. Let your breath carry your intention. Then place the seed into soil. Water it. Tend it. Let it become your mirror. As the plant grows, so does your manifestation. As you nourish it, so you nourish your belief. Each morning, look upon it not with pressure, but with presence. Let it remind you, things take time. But time is not the enemy. It is the medium of miracles. Every drop of water, every ray of sun, every quiet day where nothing seems to be happening is part of the unfolding. Your seed is listening. Your dream is not ignoring you. It is metabolizing the energy you've already given it. The frequency, the clarity, the surrender. These are the nutrients. So do not rush to pull it out of the soil just to check if it's sprouting. Don't let doubt become the frost that stunts the root. Instead, speak to it gently. I trust what I cannot yet see. I honor the unfolding. I am patient with the becoming. Because sometimes the universe delays a manifestation not to test you, but to prepare the world for it. To open space in someone else's path. To align an opportunity not yet visible. To build support you'll only recognize in hindsight. This is not your punishment. It is your precision. So when you feel restless, when your mind screams, "Why is it taking so long?" Return to Everett's field. Return to Vera's classroom. Return to the soil. And remember, the seed doesn't need reassurance. It needs environment. You are the environment. The energy you live in is the container through which your desire becomes form. So keep tending, keep nourishing, keep showing up. Soon, without announcement, without warning, the surface will crack. The sprout will emerge. The air will shift. The first leaf of your desire will stretch into the light. And you will realize it was never not working. It was always becoming. In the bustle of a crowded marketplace, Alvin stood behind the counter of his modest shop. He had been there for years, selling handmade items to locals and travelers alike. But over time, he began to notice a curious pattern. On days when his heart felt light, customers came in smiling, generous, kind. Laughter filled the aisles. Sales were effortless. Yet on days when he was burdened with worry, irritated by thoughts he barely understood, difficult customers appeared as if summoned. Complaints multiplied. Misunderstandings flared. The shop hadn't changed. The people hadn't changed. He had, and the world simply reflected it. This is the mirror principle, one of the most powerful, humbling truths of manifestation. Your outer world is not random. It is not chaotic. It is a precise, responsive mirror of your inner atmosphere. Whatever you sustain in vibration, you will eventually see in reality. It's not punishment. It's feedback. The mirror doesn't judge. It doesn't argue. It simply shows. If you carry fear, the world becomes threatening. If you carry peace, it becomes gentle. If you carry worthlessness, it becomes rejecting. If you carry joy, it becomes generous. You do not have to fix the mirror. You have to change the source. And that source is always within. Edith, a dancer in a small coastal town, knew this intimately. Her performances were raw and vulnerable, never choreographed with precision, but danced from emotion. When she doubted herself, her movements became tight, disconnected. Her audience responded with polite applause, but no feeling. Yet when she danced from joy, when she allowed herself to be seen in her truth, the entire room would weep. Her body wasn't just moving, it was broadcasting. And the audience received what she radiated. This is how it works. Everywhere. With everyone. You are not only experiencing reality, you are projecting it. Your relationships mirror your beliefs about love. Your finances mirror your beliefs about worth. Your body mirrors your beliefs about safety and vitality. Your career mirrors your beliefs about purpose and value. Not in a simplistic, blame-filled way, but in a subtle, energetic way. You may not have chosen every belief you carry. Many were given to you, inherited, absorbed, repeated, until they became normal. But now you have a choice: to keep projecting them unconsciously, or to reclaim your power and begin sculpting a new inner landscape. Start by becoming aware. Pick 3 areas of your life that feel heavy, stagnant, or imbalanced. Ask not, "What's wrong out there?" but instead, "What is this reflecting in me?" A tense relationship may reflect self-abandonment. Financial struggle may reflect buried beliefs about scarcity. Low energy may reflect unprocessed emotional heaviness. Be honest. Be gentle. Don't judge yourself. You are not broken. You are becoming conscious. This awareness is the first act of transformation. Because the moment you see the reflection clearly, you can begin to shift the source. And when you shift the source, the mirror must respond. Not always instantly, but always inevitably. This is how change begins. Not by controlling the external, but by restoring coherence within. The more you hold peace, the more peace appears. The more you hold clarity, the more clarity arrives. The more you hold love, the more love meets you. You do not attract what you want. You attract what you are. So if you want something different, become different. Not as a performance, but as a practice. Align not by force, but by frequency. This doesn't mean you never feel sadness, fear, or frustration. It means you learn to notice them without letting them define your signal. You allow emotions to move through you, but you choose which ones you sustain. The universe responds to your sustained vibration, not the one you visit, but the one you live in. So how do you shift it? With conscious attention and repetition. Each morning, choose how you wish to feel, not based on your circumstances, but based on your choice. Speak it aloud. Feel it in your chest. Let it guide your decisions. Let it shape your thoughts. Then notice how the world slowly begins to echo your intention. This is not delusion, it is design. You are the artist. Your inner world is the brush. Reality is the canvas. And the masterpiece unfolds not in one stroke, but in hundreds, thousands of small, consistent moments where you reclaim your signal and redirect your power. Just like Alvin, just like Edith, just like you. The mirror is always waiting. It is not here to punish you. It is here to show you what you've been emitting, so that you can decide, clearly, lovingly, what you want to emit now. So stand before the mirror, not to fix your face, but to meet your frequency, and then gently begin to shift. Because the moment you polish the mirror of your consciousness, your entire world reflects something new, something luminous, something true. In the quiet hum of an old clockmaker's shop, tucked between ancient stone buildings, Maurice polished the face of a grandfather clock. He had spent his life measuring time, repairing its devices, and believing in its linear order. For decades, he held a belief, quiet but absolute, that success required struggle, that reward must be earned through suffering. And so, his life reflected exactly that. Sparse customers, endless repairs, slow days marked by aching hands and modest coins. Until one day, as he adjusted the tiniest cog in a delicate heirloom piece, a thought rose uninvited. What if prosperity could flow as naturally as time itself? It startled him. But from that moment, something in the atmosphere of his shop shifted. The rhythmic ticking of the clocks sounded different, lighter, more expansive. Within days, rare antiques began arriving. Clients spoke of him with reverence. The hours became generous, the work graceful, not because the world had changed, but because his belief had. This is the echo of belief, the subtle yet powerful vibration that reverberates through every layer of your life. What you believe, especially what you deeply believe, sends out frequencies that shape your experience, draw your circumstances, and inform your patterns. Your beliefs are not just thoughts. They are energetic architects, and they build not with bricks, but with invitations. When you believe something deeply, the universe says, "As you wish." It responds not to what you say, but to what you hold. Not to your wishes, but to your certainty. This is not reward or punishment. It is law. A mirror reflecting the shape of your inner convictions. Pearl learned this after her husband of 40 years passed. For months, she wandered her home in silence, her belief like a shadow over everything. My life ended when his did. And so it did. At least the version of life she had known. Friends drifted away. The days flattened. She moved through the world as a ghost of herself. But one day, while clearing his old bookshelf, she found a blank canvas, untouched. Something stirred. Tentatively, she picked up a brush. Color flowed, then another painting, and another. With each stroke, she began crafting a new belief. New life can begin from endings. The paintings found buyers. An art class welcomed her. A community grew around her expression. Her world revived, not because she fought grief, but because she shifted the belief beneath it. You are surrounded by such echoes every day. If you believe people can't be trusted, you'll find betrayal. If you believe money is hard to hold, it will slip away. If you believe you're unworthy of love, you'll resist even the purest forms of it. But the opposite is also true. If you believe you are supported, support will appear. If you believe your voice matters, others will begin to listen. If you believe ease is allowed, you will find flow. So what do you believe? Not just in your mind, but in your bones. The best way to discover is not to ask yourself directly, but to look around you. Your reality is your belief, dressed in circumstance. This isn't to blame, it's to empower. Because once you see the belief, you can change it. Start today with a belief excavation ritual. Write down one area of your life that feels heavy or stuck. Ask, what would someone have to believe for this to keep happening? Let the answer come without judgment. Then ask, what belief would align with the version of me I'm becoming? Write that new belief clearly. Let it vibrate as truth. Speak it aloud every morning. Examples: I am worthy of abundance that flows with ease. My presence brings value even in silence. What I release creates space for what I'm ready to receive. Then act as if that belief is true. Not to fake it, but to tune into it. Every action becomes a vote for the new frequency, and the universe, like a great echo chamber, will begin to return it to you amplified. Maurice did not manifest abundance by force. He allowed it by dissolving an outdated belief. Pearl didn't rebuild her life through effort, but through permission. And you, right now, have the same choice. The echo will always return to the source. So change the source and watch as your life resounds with a music you forgot you composed. Under a sky strewn with stars, Sylvester lay on a patch of earth, his lute beside him, his mind drifting between sleep and song. He was a wanderer, a minstrel whose melodies carried stories from village to village. But in truth, his greatest stories did not come from conversations or books. They came from dreams. Each night, Sylvester received visions, some vivid, others cryptic. Once, he dreamt of a bridge cracking underfoot as thunder loomed overhead. The next day, when he arrived at that exact bridge on his usual route, he turned away, choosing instead a longer path through the mountains. Hours later, news came. The bridge had collapsed in a sudden storm. From that night forward, Sylvester no longer questioned his dreams. He listened, and so must you. Your dreams are not mere echoes of daily life. They are divine clues, sacred blueprints encoded with messages from your higher self, your subconscious, and the vast intelligence of the universe. While your waking mind filters, protects, and limits, your dream state opens. And when you're ready, your soul uses this portal to whisper truths too vast for daylight. Not all dreams are literal. Most aren't. They speak in symbol, in emotion, in archetype. A collapsing house may reflect a crumbling belief. A field of flowers might signal new abundance. Being chased may point not to danger, but to an aspect of yourself you've avoided. But every dream is meaningful, especially the ones that stay with you. Doratha, a nurse in a quiet northern village, began having recurring dreams of a field of white lilies, her hands bandaging wounded soldiers beneath moonlight. At the time, she worked in a small clinic, but the dreams persisted. Then war broke out in a neighboring land. She volunteered, arriving in a field hospital where lilies grew wild, just as in her dreams. The familiarity steadied her. Her soul had already been there. Your soul does this too. It travels ahead. It leaves breadcrumbs in your sleep. So how do you become fluent in this nighttime language? With devotion, with reverence, with practice. Begin tonight. Place a journal and pen beside your bed. As you settle in, speak silently. I open myself to receive the wisdom of my dreams. Say it not as a request, but as a remembering. Then, upon waking, before speaking, before moving too much, record what you recall. A color, a word, an image, a feeling. Write everything, no matter how fragmented or strange. Dreams fade fast, and catching them requires your full presence. Note the emotions, the symbols, the atmosphere, the people who appeared. Ask, what did I feel? What did I avoid? What lingers even now? And over time, patterns will emerge. You'll notice recurring symbols, repeated messages, a theme that follows you through different dreamscapes. These are not accidents. They are dispatches from your inner oracle. Treat your dream journal as a sacred text, a record of the divine speaking in whispers. Don't rush to analyze. Don't Google meanings. Instead, ask your intuition. What do those wings mean to you? What emotion did that staircase stir? Why did that old friend reappear? Your soul speaks in its own dialect, unique, personal, rich with memory and vibration. And the more you engage with it, the more detailed the messages become. Because your dreams are guides. They warn, they affirm, they heal, they initiate. Sometimes, they offer glimpses of future possibilities, not to predict fate, but to prepare you for choice. Other times, they illuminate where you're stuck, calling you gently toward liberation. Ignore them, and they become noise. Honor them, and they become navigation. You are not just a body that dreams. You are a soul that remembers. You've walked these corridors before, in sleep, in spirit, in story. And every dream is a return, a meeting, a reminder. So when a dream strikes you, moves you, do not dismiss it. Ask it, what truth are you showing me? And then, what am I now ready to do with it? For Sylvester, it meant rerouting his journey and saving his life. For Doratha, It meant stepping into destiny. For you, it may mean reclaiming a part of yourself long hidden in shadow. Trust that your dreams are not chaos. They are conversation. And when you listen deeply, you awaken not only in the morning, but within your life. In the quiet hours before dawn, in a workshop filled with half-finished inventions and dusty shelves of forgotten tools, Bernard sat motionless. Not in defeat, but in peace. For weeks he had chased ideas, pacing, sketching, discarding blueprint after blueprint in frustration. The harder he pushed, the more elusive inspiration became. But on this particular morning, he surrendered. He did nothing. He just breathed. And in that stillness, something unlocked. Shapes began to form. Mechanisms revealed themselves. The pieces that once resisted fell effortlessly into place. It was not effort that summoned breakthrough. It was alignment. The perfect harmony between his inner state and the reality he wished to invite. You too carry a field around you, invisible but pulsing. Your energetic signature. Every thought, every emotion, every belief contributes to it. You emit a frequency continuously. Whether conscious or not, you are always broadcasting a message. And the universe, like a sensitive receiver, responds not to what you want, but to what you are. This is the law of resonance. And it governs your manifestations more than any vision board, script, or spoken intention ever could. Virginia, a concert pianist, played with flawless technique for years. But something was missing. Audiences respected her, but rarely felt moved. Until one evening, she received a letter, unexpected news that filled her with radiant joy. That night, she stepped onto the stage and played the same pieces she had played 100 times before. But everything felt different. The music shimmered. The audience wept. She was no longer playing notes. She was playing frequency. Your energy doesn't lie. It speaks long before your words do. It walks into a room ahead of you. It enters relationships before the first conversation. It shapes outcomes before the first step. It is the truest part of your communication with the world. And your signature is malleable. It is not fixed. It evolves with you. So how do you become aware of the signal you're sending? By listening to what life is echoing back. If you keep encountering resistance, misalignment, or limitation, ask, what am I radiating? What is the silent message I keep repeating? It might be subtle, an undercurrent of unworthiness, a residue of scarcity, a belief that says, this is too good to last. And if you find that, don't shame yourself. Don't force a change. Instead, attune. This is not about silencing the signal. It's about refining it, bringing it into coherence with who you truly are. Not the conditioned self, but the soul underneath. Start each morning with a signature ritual. Place your hand over your heart. Speak the words, I am a clear signal of divine alignment. Then breathe into the qualities you desire to embody, not just have. Not I want love, but I am love. Not I hope for abundance, but I am in harmony with receiving. Then feel that signature pulse through you. Let it move through your chest, your limbs, your breath. You're not imagining, you're tuning. Throughout your day, return to this frequency. When doubt arises, pause, reattune. When urgency spikes, pause, reattune. Each time you return to resonance, you reinforce your new broadcast, and the universe listens. Over time, this new signature changes what enters your life. Opportunities that once missed you now find you. Conversations shift. Timing aligns. People notice a difference they can't name. A lightness, a clarity, a magnetism, because you are no longer attracting from effort. You're receiving from coherence, like Bernard in his workshop, like Virginia at her piano, like you in your becoming. This doesn't mean life becomes perfect, but it does become reflective. The feedback loop tightens. You think clearer, feel deeper, create more freely. Your desires don't feel distant. They feel inevitable. And when things don't yet appear, you don't panic. You adjust. You check the dial, not the calendar. You align your field, not your schedule, because you now understand. Manifestation is not an act, it's a signature. And you are the pen, the field, the frequency. So ask yourself, what am I broadcasting now? What am I ready to become the signal for? Write a single affirmation. One sentence that encapsulates your aligned self. Something like, I am in perfect harmony with all that supports my expansion. I radiate clarity, peace, and receiving. I am a vessel through which inspired creation flows effortlessly. Speak it, breathe it, believe it, then let the signal carry it. Because your next manifestation isn't waiting on your timeline. It's waiting on your tone. On the wind-swept coast of a distant bay, Elena stood barefoot on wet sand, watching the waves rise and fall like breath. In her hands, she held a shell, a keepsake from childhood, tied to memories of longing and loss. She had brought it here to release it, to offer it back to the sea. But her fingers clung. Her heart hesitated. After years of carrying its weight, she thought she'd feel ready. Instead, the fear surged. What if I need this? What if I never find anything better? And then a whisper, not from the wind, but from within. Letting go doesn't mean losing. It means clearing space for what's ready to arrive. So she opened her palm, and the ocean received her offering with a gentle pull. This is the sacred paradox at the heart of all creation. To receive fully, you must release completely. Detachment is not the abandonment of desire. It is the emancipation of it. It is the act of untying your worth from your wants, of no longer gripping what was never yours to control. Most people misunderstand this. They think letting go means giving up. That detachment equals indifference. But in truth, it is the most powerful expression of trust. Because when you release the outcome, you signal, I believe the universe knows what I need even more deeply than I do. And the universe, no longer restricted by your timelines or tension, can now move freely. Khaled, a playwright in a struggling theater, once wrote with desperation. Every script was infused with a plea, please notice me, please approve, and the rejections mirrored his inner grasping. Until one night, tired and emptied, he wrote just for himself. No audience in mind, no goal in sight, only truth on the page. That play, raw, strange, unfiltered, became the one that broke through because he had finally let go of needing. You do not attract what you want. You attract what you are not desperate for. Wanting is not the problem. Clinging is. You can desire love and still be whole without it. You can dream of abundance and still sleep peacefully tonight. You can aim for transformation without resenting what is. This is energetic maturity. It means you're no longer trying to control the field. You're learning to trust its rhythm. But how do you let go without feeling like you're betraying your vision? You release the attachment, not the alignment. Detachment does not mean you stop showing up. It means you stop measuring your worth by what shows up. So here's a practice. The sacred surrender letter. Take a blank sheet. At the top, write, to the intelligence that knows beyond me. Then pour your desire onto the page. Fully. Don't hold back. Name what you long for. Speak it in detail. Let your voice shake if it must. Then, once you've emptied your longing, write, and now, I give this to you. I surrender the outcome. I trust the path. I trust the timing. I trust what I cannot yet see. Fold the paper. Burn it if you feel called, or place it somewhere sacred. The act is not for the universe. It is for your nervous system. It is to anchor you in peace, not tension. This is the soil where miracles grow, because when your energy says, "I'm fine either way," life responds with abundance. When you release the chase, you become magnetic. You are no longer chasing the butterfly. You are the garden that draws it. And sometimes, the thing you let go of returns, more aligned than before. Other times, something entirely unexpected arrives. Not what you thought you wanted, but what your soul had been asking for all along. Elena's shell was never just a keepsake. It was a symbol of the past she no longer needed to carry. And when she released it, her chest opened. Her breath deepened. Her life shifted. Within weeks, a new love entered, not to replace the past, but to walk beside her future. So the question is not, are you willing to let go? It is, are you ready to receive what only surrender can allow? Because the truth is, your grip blocks grace, and your release invites it in. In a crowded city where noise never stopped and footsteps blurred into one another, Marcus sat in a cafe by the window, scribbling notes for a project he didn't understand, but felt inexplicably drawn to. He had no idea why he cared so deeply, why he woke with urgency and fell asleep with visions. But something told him, keep going. Just then, a woman passed by the window wearing a shirt with a phrase printed boldly, the exact title he had written moments ago. His breath caught. Coincidence? No. It was synchronicity, the quiet wink of the universe. We've all felt it, that strange alignment of inner thought and outer world. You think of someone, and they call. You hear a word in a dream, and it appears in a book. You feel lost, and a stranger says something that pierces straight into your heart. These are not accidents. They are alignments. The echo of a deeper intelligence whispering, you are on the path. Keep listening. Synchronicity is how the universe speaks in contextual poetry. It doesn't shout. It doesn't demand. It dances, weaving signs, nudging your attention, testing your intuition. It's not random. It's precise. And when you are tuned in, you begin to see that the world is alive with conversation. Noticing synchronicity is a sign of awakening. It means your awareness is expanding, your energy is harmonizing, and you are no longer asleep in the material world alone. You've begun to perceive the design underneath the surface, but it requires presence. Without presence, signs become noise. Isabel, a botanist, experienced this during a solo trip to the rainforest. She had spent months grieving her mother's passing and questioning whether she was on the right path. One morning, she asked aloud into the jungle, "Give me a sign if I'm supposed to keep going." Within hours, she discovered a new species, a flower that had never been documented, but whose colors matched a painting her mother had made years before. The scientific community called it discovery. She knew it as confirmation. So how do you live in harmony with synchronicity? You notice. You slow down enough to pay attention. You drop out of constant thinking and enter the world with wonder again. You treat each encounter as sacred, each repetition as intentional, each whisper as potentially holy. Create a practice. The Synchronicity Journal. Each evening, write down any moment that felt oddly timed, strangely familiar, or unusually perfect. Over time, patterns will emerge. Messages will crystallize. You'll stop asking, "Is it real?" and start living as though the world is intelligent, because it is. And the more you acknowledge synchronicity, the more frequently it appears. It's like tuning a radio. The signal was always there. Now you're hearing it. But don't force it. Don't demand signs like tests. Instead, live in receptivity. Say, if there is something I need to know, I trust it will find me. Then let go. Carry your life like an offering, not a checklist. You may notice animals crossing your path repeatedly, numbers that echo, 111, 4204, 727, words that appear in unexpected places, songs that speak exactly to your question, conversations that answer prayers you never spoke aloud. These are not trivial. They are sacred intersections. Carl Jung called it meaningful coincidence. Indigenous cultures have always known them as messages from the spirit world. Children feel them naturally. And you too are being invited back into that fluid intelligence. Because synchronicity does more than comfort. It guides. It points toward right action. It offers course correction. It confirms intuitive nudges. It helps you feel accompanied on a path that often feels invisible. But be aware, synchronicity doesn't always affirm what's easy. Sometimes it pushes you out of your comfort. Sometimes it speaks through disruption, challenge, or redirection. Just like a GPS, it reroutes you, not to punish, but to preserve your highest path. So when something strange happens, don't rush to explain it away. Pause. Ask, what am I being shown? Where does this want to take me? What happens if I trust the alignment? Remember Marcus in the cafe. Remember Isabel in the rainforest. Remember the countless moments when something beyond logic nudged your soul. You are never truly alone. You are always in conversation. With the field, with the unseen, with your own becoming. And synchronicity is the language the universe uses when words are too small. Somewhere in the rolling hills of Tuscany, beneath a sky streaked with lavender clouds, Sabina knelt in her garden, hands deep in the soil. She paused suddenly, feeling a chill run through her, though the air was warm. A soft, inexplicable sense told her to return to the house. She obeyed, not out of fear, but trust. Minutes later, thunder cracked and rain began to pour. The storm had arrived early, unannounced, but her intuition had known. This is the wisdom that arises before the evidence. Intuition, not guesswork, not logic, not fear disguised as foresight, but a felt knowing, born not from your mind, but from your alignment with the deeper field of truth. Everyone has intuition. Everyone has access to this compass, but not everyone listens. Because intuition does not speak loudly. It does not argue. It does not beg for attention. It speaks once, clearly, quietly, and then waits. You've felt it, haven't you? The urge to pause before taking a turn. The sudden sense that a person isn't what they appear to be. The idea that pops into your mind when you've stopped trying. The feeling of rightness or wrongness in your chest, long before the facts arrive. These are not accidents. They are access points. Intuition is not mystical in the sense of being unknowable. It is mystical in the sense of being deeply personal, profoundly internal, and universally accurate when honored. Liam, a teacher in the city, once ignored his intuition repeatedly. He'd take jobs that looked perfect on paper, but felt off in his gut. Relationships where everything aligned, except the feeling. And each time, the result mirrored the misalignment. One day, exhausted, he decided to test the opposite. He made a vow. From now on, I will follow the feeling even when I don't understand it. That vow changed his life. The right projects appeared. The right people stayed. His joy returned. Because when you live from intuition, you begin to walk with life, not against it. So how do you deepen your relationship with your inner compass? Start by becoming aware of your body. The mind can be conditioned, but the body feels truth before words arrive. Some people feel a tightness in the stomach when something is off. Others feel a tingling in the chest when something is aligned. Learn your own language. Tune in. Create a practice, the intuitive check-in. Before decisions, big or small, pause and ask, how does this feel in my body? Where do I feel expansion? Where do I feel contraction? If I removed fear of failure, what choice would I make? Then, trust it. Even if it doesn't make sense. Even if others don't understand. Even if no one else sees what you feel. Intuition doesn't need validation, it needs honoring. And with every small act of honoring, your intuitive muscle strengthens. Your trust deepens. Your clarity sharpens. You stop needing signs from outside because you've learned to read the compass within. But know this, intuition is not always comfortable. It will ask you to leave what's familiar. It will nudge you out of relationships that look good but don't feel right. It will ask you to speak when silence feels safer, and to be still when the world demands action. But it will never lead you into harm. It will never betray your truth. And when you follow it, the path, though winding, becomes unmistakably yours. It's like following a thread through the dark. You may not see the whole design, but each step reveals the next. And over time you realize, this thread was never random. It was remembering. Sabina, Liam, and now you are part of that remembering. You are not here to follow logic alone. You are here to listen. To live in such resonance with your soul that the next step is not forced. It's felt. So as you move forward, ask often, what is my inner knowing saying? Am I quiet enough to hear it? Do I trust it enough to follow? Because intuition is not the voice of risk. It's the whisper of alignment. And when you follow it, life becomes not just bearable, but beautiful. In a monastery carved into the side of a quiet mountain, a monk named Aiko spent years sweeping the same stone steps. To visitors, it seemed like humble labor, repetition without progress. But Aiko understood something deeper. He was not just sweeping dust, he was sweeping identity. With each motion, he let go of the illusions layered upon his soul. The titles, the wounds, the expectations. Over time, as his broom carved paths through wind-blown leaves, he too was being carved into something truer. Because identity is not fixed. It is not your name, not your job, not your pain, not your past. It is the story you tell yourself about who you are, and the frequency that story emits. And here's the sacred truth. The universe responds not to your potential, but to your identity. Who you believe you are becomes the tuning fork for your entire life. This is why affirmations fail when they clash with self-concept. You can say, I am abundant 1,000 times, but if your identity is still wrapped around lack, your energy remains misaligned. You may visualize love, but if you identify as unworthy of it, you'll unconsciously push it away. Your identity is your energetic anchor, and the beautiful thing, you can rewrite it. But first, you must see it clearly. Take a moment now. Reflect honestly. Who do I believe I am when no one is watching? What am I still carrying that no longer fits who I'm becoming? If the universe only heard my self-concept, what would it echo back? For many, identity is formed in survival. Roles shaped by trauma. Labels adopted to feel safe, accepted, or significant. But eventually, those identities become cages, and the soul begins to whisper, there is more of you waiting. Letting go of outdated identity isn't an abandonment. It's an emergence. Ava, once a high-powered lawyer, built her life on achievement. Her identity was the successful one. But inside, she felt hollow, burned out. One day, she heard her daughter whisper to a friend, "Mom doesn't smile anymore." That single sentence shattered her illusion. Over the next year, Ava began dissolving the identity that had kept her imprisoned. She painted. She learned to rest. She redefined success not as output, but presence. And slowly, the universe began responding to the new her. With joy, with grace, with spaciousness. You are not required to stay loyal to an old version of yourself just because it's familiar. You are allowed to evolve. But here's the paradox. To become something new, you must embody it before you see it. Identity must shift before reality does. You don't become confident by waiting for results. You walk like confidence now. You don't become loved by waiting for someone to choose you. You treat yourself as beloved now. You don't become abundant by hitting a number. You live like someone who trusts provision now. This is not pretending. It's anchoring. It's choosing to live from the energy of your becoming. So who do you choose to be? Not in theory, in vibration. Write it, name it, feel it. Example: I am a grounded vessel of calm clarity. I am a sacred presence, worthy of love and reverence. I am a clear channel for truth, creation, and divine timing. Repeat this identity daily, not to convince yourself, but to remind yourself of who you already are beneath the noise. And notice, as your identity shifts, so too does your reality. People treat you differently. Opportunities shift in your favor. Old patterns fall away. Because your vibration has changed, and the universe, ever faithful, reflects it. Identity is not about performance. It's about permission. You are not here to become someone new. You are here to remember who you were before the world told you who to be. So sweep away what no longer serves, and let the true self emerge. One breath, one choice, one vibration at a time. In a wind-blown village at the edge of the cliffs, Matteo carved wooden boats by hand. He never sold them, never displayed them, never rushed. Each one took weeks, even months. When asked why he did it, he simply said, "Because the sea whispered that I should." And on the days he launched one into the surf, he did so with a prayer. Those boats weren't toys. They were sacred actions, tangible extensions of an unseen calling. Because when you act from alignment, not from ego, not from pressure, but from truth, every step becomes a prayer. You were never meant to dream in isolation. You were meant to bring heaven into form. And the bridge between idea and incarnation is sacred action. But this is not the action the world praises. Not the frantic hustle, not the performance, not the doing for validation. Sacred action flows differently. It begins in stillness. It arises from clarity. It moves not to prove, but to express. It is not forced. It is faith with feet. You may ask, how do I know if an action is sacred? You'll feel it. It won't feel like striving. It will feel like unfolding. It may still challenge you, stretch you, even scare you. But there's peace beneath the fear. A current pulling you forward, whispering, this way. Take Eleanor, a nurse who, for years, dreamed of writing. Not to become famous, just to speak. One day, after yet another night shift, she sat down and penned a short story. No goal, no agenda, just honesty. That story eventually found its way into the hands of a small publisher and into the hearts of thousands. She didn't chase success. She took one sacred action and let it ripple. This is how it works. You don't need to know the whole path. You need only to say yes to the next clear step, because when you act from alignment, your movement becomes magnetism. The universe rushes to meet you, not when you're ready to force, but when you're ready to flow. So what is your next sacred action? Maybe it's a phone call. Maybe it's forgiving someone. Maybe it's walking into a room you've avoided. Maybe it's closing the door you keep peeking through. Maybe it's writing, singing, planting, dancing. Whatever it is, it won't be perfect. It may be small, but it will be real. and that's what makes it holy. To live as a conscious creator, you must marry presence with participation. You are not here to just visualize the life you want. You are here to step into it. This is why intention matters. Before you act, pause and ask, is this action aligned with who I'm becoming? Does it come from love or from fear? Am I doing this to create or to control? Let those questions guide your movement. And when you do act with reverence. Every word you speak, every boundary you set, every offering you make, every dream you touch, treat it as ritual. Pour presence into the ordinary until it becomes extraordinary. Mateo's boats never won awards, never went viral, never even returned once launched. But they moved people because they were made with intention, because they were action in harmony with spirit, and that is enough. Your sacred action may not be recognized at first. It may not yield results in the way you've been taught to expect, but energy never lies, and the world always shifts when even one soul dares to move from truth. So today, ask yourself, what is the one thing I can do, not to fix my life, but to honor my soul? Then do it, not for applause, not for outcome, but for resonance. In a sunlit studio nestled in the hills, Amira moved slowly across the floor, barefoot, eyes closed, body attuned not to choreography, but to consciousness. She wasn't dancing for an audience. She wasn't performing. She was embodying. Every gesture a declaration, every breath a prayer. She was no longer imagining freedom. She was it. Because embodiment is the moment your truth leaves the realm of idea and becomes your way of being. It's when healing is no longer a concept you talk about, but a presence you radiate. It's when confidence isn't something you hope to feel. It's something you carry in your posture. It's when you no longer have to say, I am worthy, because your actions prove it. The universe doesn't respond to your affirmations alone. It responds to your embodiment. It listens not just to your voice, but to your frequency. Not just to what you want, but to how you live what you say you believe. This is the difference between knowing the path and walking it. So ask yourself, do I live like someone who is already whole? Does my behavior match the energy I claim to desire? In private moments, when no one is watching, who am I being? Embodiment is not about perfection. It is about consistency, tiny acts, repeated truths, a rhythm of alignment between your internal world and your external choices. Think of Leo, a once anxious speaker. For years, he read every book, watched every video on confidence. But nothing changed until he decided to practice speaking aloud each morning, to himself, into the mirror, with presence. At first, his voice trembled, but day by day, the doing shaped the being. And soon, the man who once whispered his truths began to speak them with authority. Not because he had learned confidence, but because he had become it. This is embodiment, not something you add, something you uncover, not something you chase, something you return to. It is the art of closing the gap between knowing and living. And you can begin now. Start with one quality you long to anchor. Let's say, trust. Then ask, what does trust look like in my morning routine? How does trust eat, speak, walk, rest, respond? What does trust say yes to? And what does it gently release? Then do it, not to force the outcome, but to become the outcome. This is the secret to timeline shifts. You don't wait for life to change so you can feel different. You feel different now, and life adjusts in response. Because your reality doesn't shape your embodiment. Your embodiment shapes your reality. Each time you move as love, even when fear knocks, your field changes. Each time you set a boundary from self-respect, your timeline ripples. Each time you show up even when unready, your future reshapes itself around your courage. And soon, You stop trying to manifest the life you want because you've become the living evidence of it. Embodying your truth is the most sacred act of creation. It is how you show the universe, I am no longer asking, I am being. Like Amira in her studio, like Leo in front of his mirror, like you, right here, right now, choosing to inhabit your power rather than chase it. So today, choose embodiment, even if it's quiet, even if it's awkward, even if no one claps, because your soul knows. And that knowing is enough to shift everything. There was a moment when everything fell apart for Noor. Her job dissolved in a round of sudden layoffs. Her partner ended their relationship with quiet finality. Her body, strained from years of self-neglect, gave way to illness. It felt like life had turned against her, stripping away everything she had built. But in the stillness that followed the collapse, a new whisper emerged. Not loud, not urgent, just this. You are not being punished. You are being prepared. And so began her initiation, because life, when it truly loves you, does not only send comfort, it sends fire. And in that fire, you are not destroyed. You are reforged. Initiation is not random suffering. It is the sacred unraveling that precedes rebirth. You've felt it too, haven't you? Those moments when the ground beneath your feet disappears, when the path disappears, when everything you identified with crumbles, and yet something deeper, the part of you that watches without fear, remains. That part knows this is not the end, it is the threshold. Initiation asks you to release old identities, outdated beliefs, expired dreams, not because they were wrong, but because they have done their job. It is the soul's way of clearing the stage for a new act. But here's the truth few speak. Initiations are rarely graceful. They often come disguised as breakdowns, illness, betrayal, silence. They come as delays, loss, loneliness. They ask you to walk blindfolded through the dark with no map and only your inner knowing as compass. It is disorienting, and yet it is divine. Because the self that walks out the other side is not the same self that entered. Take Elias, a once proud entrepreneur. After a string of failed ventures, bankruptcy, and public humiliation, he vanished from the public eye. For 3 years, no one heard from him. He worked at a quiet retreat center, cleaning rooms and tending to gardens. There, among trees and silence, he shed the identity of the one who succeeds. And when he re-emerged, he no longer needed to win. He simply needed to serve. His next project? A community-based incubator that uplifted hundreds, rooted not in ego but in purpose. That is the gift of initiation. It strips you to essence, and in that nakedness, you remember your strength. So how do you walk through an initiation? You surrender to the flame, but you do not collapse. You grieve the loss, but you do not forget your worth. You allow the breaking, but you never forget. This, too, is sacred. Create a sacred ritual of naming your threshold. Write, what is being taken from me? What am I being asked to let die? What strength is being forged in me now? Then sit with it. Weep if you must. Burn the page. Mark the moment not as defeat, but as birth. You are not broken. You are becoming. The world doesn't teach us how to suffer well. It teaches us to avoid pain, to bypass, to numb. But true alchemists, true initiates, know how to walk through the fire without losing their soul. They emerge not bitter, but brighter. Not hardened, but whole. Because in the belly of darkness, a deeper light is kindled. And it is not the light of who you were. It is the fire of who you are becoming. Noor, now years beyond her initiation, lives with a softness she never had before. A wisdom, a strength that does not shout but radiates. She no longer needs to chase worthiness, because she remembers she was forged in sacred fire. And so are you. Whatever you are facing, it is not punishment. It is preparation. You are being initiated into the version of yourself that can hold more power, more light, more responsibility, without collapsing. So honor the fire and walk forward, because this is not your end, it is your evolution. In the soft glow of early morning, Zara lit a candle, closed her eyes, and whispered a question into the stillness. What would you have me do today? She wasn't speaking to herself alone. She wasn't asking for a list or a plan. She was inviting a conversation with the unseen force that dances through her breath, her heartbeat, her intuition. And like every day, the answer didn't come in words. It came in nudges, in feelings, in the magnetic pull towards something that wasn't planned, but perfectly timed. This is co-creation. The moment you realize that you're not creating alone, that the dreams you carry didn't originate solely from your mind. They were given to you. And the path to those dreams, you don't have to carve it from scratch. You walk it with the universe. Co-creation is not control. It is collaboration with the field of intelligence, of energy, of divine precision. It begins the moment you shift from, I must make this happen, to we are bringing this to life together. And the we includes not only your higher self, but also the unseen forces, the timing, the symbols, the souls aligned to meet you when the moment is right. But here's the key. Co-creation only activates through alignment. The universe will not override your resistance. It will not force a gift into closed hands. It meets you where you are, not where you pretend to be. So how do you become a clear co-creator? You listen more than you force. You ask more than you assume. You respond more than you react. You move like someone who believes the universe is alive and listening. And it is. Every step you take in alignment becomes an invitation. I am ready. I am open. I trust you to bring what I cannot yet see. And then, the dance begins. Jay, a visual artist, once tried to force his career into virality. Algorithms, ads, hustle. Results were inconsistent. Until one morning, exhausted, he began to paint what he truly felt, not what would sell. Those paintings, raw, sacred, real, began drawing people in. Slowly, then suddenly. Because the field was now matching his frequency. Not his marketing. This is co-creation. When what is inside you meets what is orchestrated beyond you. And that orchestration is intelligent. But you must remain a clear channel. Meaning, stay out of how. The how is not your work. It's the universe's art. Take sacred action, but release attachment to result. Let feedback guide you, but don't let fear derail you. When blocks arise, don't curse them. Ask what they are redirecting you toward. You will be surprised how precise the universe can be. The phone call at the perfect time. The resource you didn't know you needed. The stranger who says exactly what you wrote in your journal last night. The opportunity that bypasses logic but fits like a soul-sized glove. You couldn't have scripted it. Because this is not a script. It's a partnership. So develop the daily ritual of checking in. Each morning, what wants to be expressed through me today? What energy would serve me to embody right now? What would trust do next? And then, listen. Your answers may come as a feeling, a color, a silence. That's enough. Then move from that place. Because co-creation is not passive waiting. It is attuned participation. It's dancing with the divine, knowing when to lead and when to be led. And as you live this way, you'll feel it. The synchronicities become clearer. The burdens become lighter. The joy more effortless. Because you're no longer rowing alone. You're sailing, guided by an unseen wind. So today, offer your intention like a seed to the soil. Then tend to it with aligned movement, sacred stillness, and unwavering trust, because you were never meant to do this alone. You are a co-creator with life itself, and life is waiting to meet your yes. There's a story told of a traveler who wandered through a desert for days, parched and exhausted. One morning, as the sun cracked the horizon, he stumbled upon an ancient well. He wept as he drank, overwhelmed not just by relief, but by the realization that the water had always been there, hidden, waiting. And in that moment, something inside him shifted. He whispered one word into the wind over and over. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. This is gratitude, not as performance, not as obligation, but as recognition. Gratitude is the vibration that says, I see what is here. I acknowledge what has been given. I remember that I am already held. It is the most powerful invitation to the universe. Give me more of this. Because what you appreciate, you amplify. And what you ignore, you delay. But gratitude, in its truest form, is not just about receiving the good. It is about perceiving the gift even inside the hard. This is where the alchemy happens. To say thank you, not only when life is soft and generous, but even when it is stern, silent, uncertain. That is the threshold of mastery, because gratitude does not deny pain. It holds it gently and whispers, you will not be wasted. True gratitude is the language of alignment. It says to life, I trust you, even when I don't understand, even when I ache. I trust that somewhere in this moment, there is provision. Sophia, once caught in the depths of grief after losing her partner, began a practice called Thank You Anyway. Each morning, she would name what hurt, and then find one thread of thankfulness, even if it was just the warmth of her tea or the softness of a blanket. Over months, her body began to soften, her mind quieted, and her heart, once armored, began to open again. Because gratitude is a healing frequency. It changes your chemistry. It softens your nervous system. It awakens your intuition. It magnetizes more of what aligns with joy. This is not wishful thinking. It's resonance science. The state of your inner world sends signals to the field around you. And gratitude is the tuning fork that aligns you with receiving. So what does a life of sacred gratitude look like? It's not grand gestures, it's micro moments. Noticing the light on the wall, pausing before you eat, placing your hand on your heart and whispering, I'm proud of you. Looking someone in the eye and truly meaning your thank you, not rushing through the miracle of ordinary things. You can anchor this through a daily gratitude communion. Each night, before sleep, place your hands over your heart and name one thing that nourished you, one thing that challenged you, one thing you are thankful for, even if it's still unfolding. This is not checklist gratitude. This is embodied reverence. And over time, this vibration begins to shift your timeline. You stop chasing because you feel full. You stop grasping because you remember life is not withholding. You stop comparing because you are too busy receiving what is yours. Gratitude anchors you in presence, and presence is where miracles happen. And here's the paradox. The more you are thankful, the more you receive. Not because you've earned more, but because you've expanded your capacity to notice and hold more. The well didn't move closer to the traveler. His awareness simply aligned with its presence. So whisper this now, softly, wherever you are. Thank you for this moment. Thank you for this breath. Thank you for what I can see and for what is still unseen. Let your life become a living thank you. Not because everything is perfect, but because everything is sacred. In a quiet chapel by the sea, an old woman named Helena sat with her hands open in her lap, palms facing the sky. She wasn't praying with words. She wasn't asking, She was simply receiving, her body soft, her breath deep, her heart still. Visitors often came and asked her, "How do you get what you need?" She'd smile and say, "I stopped grasping. I started letting it in." Because receiving is not about reaching, it's about allowing. So many live their lives as if they are always one more effort away from being worthy, one more hustle away from earning rest, one more achievement away from love. But the universe does not reward tension. It flows toward openness. To receive is not to be passive. It is to be available. Available to joy, to help, to abundance, to love, to truth, to possibility. And to be available, you must be relaxed enough to hold it. Here is the sacred paradox. You are already surrounded by blessings, but you only receive what you're willing to claim. Receiving requires presence. Receiving requires trust. Receiving requires worthiness. And this is where many get blocked. Because deep down, they've been taught, I must give more than I receive. If it comes easily, it's not valuable. I don't want to seem greedy. What if I lose it once I have it? But these are wounds, not truths. And to heal them is to rewire your relationship with the divine. You are not here to only give. You are here to balance the sacred flow, giving and receiving, exhaling and inhaling, offering and welcoming. Think of Elijah, a gifted coach who poured endlessly into others. His clients thrived, but his body was breaking down. He couldn't understand why he felt so depleted until one afternoon, his own mentor said, "You never let yourself be supported." That day, Elijah began a practice of letting himself receive a compliment, a meal, a prayer, a gift. And in doing so, he healed not just his energy, but his legacy. Because when you receive, you model healthy permission for others to do the same. So how do you open? First, examine your resistance. Do you deflect compliments? Do you feel guilt when resting? Do you overgive to feel safe or needed? Name it, witness it, then choose differently. Practice the art of receiving without justification. When someone offers help, say thank you, not you didn't have to. When abundance flows, breathe it in. Don't sabotage it out of discomfort. When intuition guides, listen. Don't argue your way out of magic. And perhaps most sacred of all, receive from the unseen. That quiet idea that floats in at dusk. The inner knowing that you are not alone. The synchronicity that arrives just when you needed reassurance. These are gifts, whispers, divine deliveries. And to receive them, you must slow down enough to notice. This is why softness matters. Because the universe does not scream to be heard. It offers gently, constantly, faithfully, but only to the hands that are open. So today, declare this: I am safe to receive. I am worthy of ease. I am available for miracles without needing to earn them. Then breathe. Let that truth settle not just in your mind, but in your body. Feel your chest expand. Feel your hands unclench. Feel your nervous system remember what it's like to be met. Because this is not about more. It's about allowing what has already been trying to reach you. Helena's hands were never empty. They were open. So too can yours be. In a forest temple nestled between ancient trees, monks rise before dawn to sit. Not to think, not to speak, but to simply be. There is no rush, no goal to conquer. Just breath, just presence, just rest. And in that stillness, something extraordinary happens. Clarity emerges. Wounds begin to mend, and the soul realigns with its source. Because rest is not the opposite of productivity, it is the foundation of divine alignment. In a world that glorifies exhaustion, rest becomes revolutionary. But more than that, rest is a spiritual recalibration. It is the moment you stop doing long enough to remember, I am not a machine. I am a vessel of life. True rest is not just physical, it's vibrational. It is the release of mental clutter, the surrender of emotional turbulence, the softening of spiritual resistance. You cannot receive clarity in chaos. You cannot hear divine guidance through static. You cannot create from depletion. Rest is how you return to your essence. And yet so many resist it. Why? Because rest requires trust. Trust that the world will not collapse if you pause. Trust that your worth is not measured in output. Trust that your becoming is accelerated, not delayed, by stillness. Take Jonah, a high-performing creative director who lived on coffee and adrenaline. His calendar was packed, his body constantly on edge. One evening, after a health scare, he committed to an experiment. 1 hour of intentional rest each day. No screens, no planning, just silence. At first, it terrified him. Then it healed him. Creativity returned. Joy resurfaced. Sleep deepened. His work didn't suffer. It expanded. Because now, it flowed from overflow, not from lack. Rest is not the enemy of action. It is the soil that nourishes sacred action. And rest is not idleness. Rest is active remembering. Remembering that you are enough now. Remembering that your value is not conditional. Remembering that presence is power. So how can you begin to reclaim rest as holy? Create a ritual of restoration. 1 hour a week without stimulation. Just quiet and breath. 10 minutes a day to place your hand over your heart and say, "Nothing is required of me in this moment." A full Sabbath if possible. 1 day of unplugging, of soul-deep exhale. And most importantly, protect your rest like sacred ground. Because everything depends on the frequency you carry. And rest is how you tune it. It's no coincidence that some of your deepest insights come in the shower, on a walk, or just before sleep. That's because your mind has softened enough to receive. This is why the universe often moves while you are resting. Because finally, you're not blocking the signal with noise. So today, ask not, "What must I do?" but "What would nourish me?" Ask not, "What should I accomplish?" but "What frequency do I wish to inhabit?" And let rest be your guide. Let it teach you that softness is strength, that doing less is not failure. It is often the most aligned path forward. That your nervous system is not your enemy, it is your compass. And when it cries for rest, it is not sabotaging you, it is saving you. In the forest temple, no one rushes to enlightenment. They sit, they breathe, they allow, and in that allowing, they become radiant. So rest, dear one, not because you've earned it, but because you are made of stars and breath, and both require space to shine. In the hush between waves, just before the tide speaks again, there is a pause, a breath held by the earth itself. It's in that pause that Kavi, a lifelong seeker, first heard it. Not with his ears, but with his entire being. A voice that wasn't a voice, a knowing that wasn't taught. It said only, "You already know." And just like that, his lifelong search turned inward. Because sometimes the answers you seek aren't waiting out there. They are whispering within you, waiting for you to finally listen. Listening, true listening, is a spiritual discipline. It is not merely the act of hearing. It is the art of receiving the subtle. It asks for your stillness, not your opinion. Your openness, not your preparation. Your humility, not your certainty. And yet, in a world addicted to noise, distraction, and instant clarity, the sacred art of listening has become rare. But this is how the universe speaks. Not in shouts, but in nudges. Not in commands, but in resonance. You were born with an internal compass, a sacred receiver. But if the frequency is cluttered, the signal becomes faint. To listen is to clear the static, both inside and out. Begin with external silence. Not forever, just enough to remember what your own essence sounds like. Turn off the stream of voices, the commentary, the inputs, the scroll. Step into the sanctuary of stillness. Let yourself decompress from the world's urgency. Then, attend to the internal noise. This is subtler. It's the voice of the critic, the looping worry, the urgency to analyze before you've even received. To quiet this noise, you don't need to force it out. You simply return to your body, the breath, the beating of your heart, the subtle tug in your gut, the expansive yes, or the contracting no, because your body is always listening and always speaking. When you start tuning into that sacred language, you begin to hear things others miss. Like when someone says, "I'm fine," but their tone trembles. Like when a path looks good on paper, but feels heavy in your chest. Like when the right choice makes no sense, but brings you peace anyway. This is listening beyond logic, and it's how guidance enters. Take Zaria, an engineer who once ignored her inner signals in favor of rational outcomes. She took a job that looked perfect, but her body felt drained every day. It wasn't until a spontaneous journaling session, prompted by nothing more than an uneasy dream, that she heard a truth she hadn't let surface. I don't belong here. Within 3 months, she had transitioned into a role that aligned with her creative calling, and her health, relationships, and joy all improved. Because the soul always knows. It just waits for you to get quiet enough to hear it. So create rituals of deep listening, journaling without prompts, just flow, walking without music, just breath and feet on earth, sitting in nature and letting it speak first, asking a question, then waiting, not for logic, but for resonance. And most importantly, when you receive a whisper, honor it. Write it down. Speak it aloud. Take one small aligned step, because when you honor the whisper, it grows louder. But when you ignore it, it fades, not out of punishment, but out of respect for your free will. So today, instead of asking the world what it thinks, ask your soul what it knows. Instead of pushing for an answer, make space for it to arrive. Instead of shouting into the void, learn to listen to the silence, because the divine doesn't always send signs with neon lights. Sometimes it sends a feather, a flicker, a feeling. And when you learn to listen with your whole being, you begin to live in conversation with life itself. Some journeys don't end with fireworks. They end with a quiet breath, a gentle nod, a subtle shift in how you carry yourself through the world. There is no parade, no applause, just you, walking a little slower, standing a little taller, speaking with a little more truth. This is integration, not an act of doing more, but of being differently. Because wisdom is not measured by how much you know, but by how fully you live what you've remembered. Integration is the bridge between insight and embodiment. It is where all the healing, listening, receiving, and aligning settle into your nervous system. It's the difference between knowing you are worthy and saying no from that worth, believing in your intuition and trusting it when logic disagrees, understanding abundance, and choosing to live generously even in uncertain seasons. And here's what no one tells you. Integration is not glamorous. It looks like doing the dishes while whispering affirmations. Like choosing silence over arguing to be right. Like walking away from what no longer honors you, without needing to explain why. It's in the moments no one sees. Like Luna, who once journaled nightly about her dreams, her power, her clarity, but never changed her habits. Until one day, she stopped writing about setting boundaries and finally did it. The conversation was awkward. Her hands shook. But that moment changed her life more than any affirmation ever had. Because now, she was living it. That is integration. It is sacred repetition. It is consistent alignment. It is choosing who you've become, again and again, even when it's uncomfortable. So how do you begin? Start small. Ask, what one belief do I want to anchor this week? What one action aligns with that belief? How can I repeat it until it becomes natural? Then let that small act become your prayer. Because you don't need to make giant leaps. You just need to take honest steps. From your center, every day. Integration is not the mountain, it's the path. It is the pause between reaction and response. It is the breath you take before defaulting to the old. It is the moment you remember, I get to choose again. And this is where magic stabilizes. Not in the peak of insight, but in the mundane. The morning routines, the emails, the walks, the meals, where your new self quietly asserts its presence. So honor the ordinary. Let your daily life become your temple. Let the way you brush your teeth, speak to your neighbor, care for your body, scroll your phone, all become evidence of who you've become. This is the living ritual. It is slow, it is subtle, and it is sovereign. You are no longer chasing transformation. You are maintaining your frequency. And yes, you'll forget sometimes. That's part of it too. But now you know how to return, to breathe, to soften, to remember who you are. That's the real gift of this journey. Not that you never wobble, but that your center is now strong enough to call you back. So today, choose one small way to honor your becoming, and repeat it. Let it take root, because the soul doesn't evolve in bursts. It unfolds in layers. And every moment of alignment is a love letter to the universe that says, I am still listening. I am still walking. I am still becoming. You are still here, not just surviving, not just waiting, but becoming again and again. The version of you the universe always knew was possible. This is not the end. This is a sacred return. Return to yourself. To the knowing that was never lost, only buried. To the voice that was never gone, only quieted. To the path that was never closed, only waiting for your readiness. Everything you've walked through, the longing, the silence, the fire, the rising, has led you here. To this moment of integration, to this remembrance. You are not broken. You are blooming. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but like the slow unfurling of a flower that knows the sun is coming, even when it's still dark. This is the invitation of your life, to live as one who remembers, to walk not in urgency, but in alignment, to speak not for validation, but from truth, to love not in fear of loss, but as a radiant overflow of your own fullness, because you are no longer searching for the light. You are the light. Let this truth settle into your bones. You don't need to earn your way into worth. You were born worthy. You don't need to chase what is already destined. You need only align. You don't need to beg for guidance. It is already inside you, waiting for your trust. Every step you've taken has mattered. Every hesitation, every whisper, every leap. You've been in a sacred training, a deep initiation. And now the time has come, not to do more, but to be what you know. Let the world see the version of you that is not performing, not proving, but embodying. Let your presence become your message. Let your life become your offering. Let your breath become your prayer. You are not behind. You are precisely on time. The universe never rushes, and neither must you. So walk now, slowly, clearly, boldly, into the next chapter. Not seeking, but serving. Not asking, what do I need? But what do I have to give from who I've become? Because you are no longer just dreaming a new world. You are living as one who brings it forth, and that is no small thing. It is revolution. It is remembrance. It is the fulfillment of why you came. So as this journey closes, let this not be a goodbye, but a blessing. May you continue to trust the unseen, to rest in the becoming, to listen deeply, to walk gently, to give freely, to receive with grace, to remember always that you are the beloved of this universe. And whenever you forget, let these words return you home. You are ready. You are not waiting. You are walking as the answer. This was never just a story. It was a mirror, a map, a call to awaken. You answered, and now the real journey begins. Not outside of you, but through you. Let it be beautiful. Let it be sacred. Let it be you. You've come far, not in miles, but in frequency. What began as quiet curiosity, a whisper that maybe there was more, has now become a deep remembering. Not of something new, but of something ancient within you. Something eternal. You didn't arrive here by accident. You were summoned by your own soul. You followed the ache. You listened to the nudge. You stayed through the unraveling. And now, you stand differently. You are no longer just a seeker. You are a keeper of sacred rhythm. You are no longer asking for signs. You are the sign. Every breath you take now carries the code of your remembrance. Every step you walk imprints the earth with your embodied truth. Every word you speak, when rooted in soul, becomes a thread in the greater tapestry of awakening. The world may not notice this change at first, but life will. The wind will. The people meant for you will, because when you shift your frequency, reality reshapes itself around you. You'll see it in the synchronicities, in the way your nervous system no longer panics at silence, in the way rest feels like reverence instead of guilt, in the way you speak, fewer words, more weight, in the way you walk, with presence instead of pressure. This is not a graduation. This is a homecoming. To the you who remembers, to the you who no longer resists divine timing, to the you who no longer asks for permission to shine. And now, something new wishes to rise. From this soil of deep embodiment, a new path begins to form. Not paved in certainty, but in trust. You will not always know where it leads, but you will know how to walk it. Not as someone who is seeking to become, but as someone who already is. So as you close this sacred scroll of words, may you keep the vibration alive, not in memory, but in motion. Not as inspiration, but as integration. Not as something outside you, but as something you carry now, everywhere. You are the field. You are the signal. You are the sacred convergence of what has always been seeking itself. Through you, walk in softness, speak in resonance, choose in alignment, rest in truth. Shine, not to be seen, but because you are light. And whenever the world feels too loud, too fast, too fractured, return to the still place inside you that whispers, I was made for this. I am ready. I am the embodiment of what once felt far away. You can't unknow this now. The veil is lifted. The remembrance is complete. And your presence is the answer someone else has been praying for. Let this be the blessing that follows your every breath. You are no longer preparing. You are no longer becoming. You are here. You are ready. You are home.